is going on, crisis actors? It is episode 1003. I almost said 103 because that's just saying 1003 is just a crazy number to say. It is episode 1003 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am here on this Friday with a special guest host today. Introduce yourself, please.
What's up? I'm Colonel Kurtz again, and I go by Colonel Kurtz 99 on all platforms. And yes, this is the first Friday that I've ever been here. I think that wasn't in person.
Yeah. Normally you're here with us, with me on a Tuesday. You're like my reliable Tuesday co-host. But today, because Mary did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, it was a little bit of an odd week because we had episode 1000 on Tuesday. You said that you would help me out on Friday today, so here you are.
Hello. I'm glad to be here.
What is new with you these days?
Nothing. I'm kind of just like a nomad right now. So I've moved. I'm back to my original studio for a little while. Although I've added the Elvis, or I should say, my significant other has added the Elvis picture in the back here. There we go.
Yeah.
He hasn't been canceled yet.
No. And if he was alive, he would be on the podcast. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today. That's what would happen.
Absolutely.
Guys, hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you are new here and you have not subscribed here yet already. And one of the reasons that is important, guys, I have to guess, based on the way that the channel has been growing lately, that we will hit 400,000 subscribers by Monday. And then we have to kind of decide, what are we going to do? It's kind of like, I likened it to when you have, when you're one of those poor souls who has a birthday that comes up around Christmas and you get caught celebrating both at the same time, which always seems unfair to those individuals. My birthday and Christmas were like almost exactly 6 months apart. Not to the day, but to the month. I'm July, go to Christmas. The only way it could have been any more equal would have been if I had been like a June birthday. But I'm pretty far away from Christmas. But if you are one of those people that has like a December birthday, you know what I'm talking about here. Episode 1000 comes up right along the same time as 400,000 subscribers. And I do want to do something special. I want to do an extended stream next week. So maybe we will work to figure out which day we do that. Maybe we do that Wednesday, me and Mary, and we celebrate 400,000 subscribers. And if you have not yet subscribed, you can be a part of that journey. So go ahead and do that if you are new here. Thank you so much, guys. What are we getting into today? We have a bunch of stuff to talk about. So last night, I guess it was yesterday, actor Eric Dane, a lot of people would know him from Grey's Anatomy. I did not personally watch Grey's Anatomy, but I got a message from Alex in the Slack where she said, no, McSteamy. He was a very well-known television actor. He was in a show that I really liked called The Last Ship on TNT. He's passed away at the age of 53 from ALS, and he adds to a long growing list of actors just in the last couple of weeks who have passed away in Hollywood. We have Robert Duvall, Tom Noonan, and of course we had James Van Der Beek. James Van Der Beek was a little bit before those. By the way, guys, one of these days when I sit up in my chair, this thing is going to break and it's going to be the... I'm sorry to distract myself here, but I'm waiting for it every time I sit up in this chair. But there's been... Getting back to things, there's been a long list of actors recently who have passed away.
Too. Peter Green, the dude from
that was December.
Yeah,
so I didn't add that one to the list because it was December. Because James Ransone was around that same time as well. But I actually did a video yesterday because people were like, I saw these conspiracy theories because he died via accidental gunshot wound.
I saw that. Yeah.
He shot himself in the armpit, and somebody was like, in Alpha Fox was like, what did he know? And I'm like, do you know many assassins who shoot people in the armpit? I've got
they were trying to cover their tracks. They're like, no one will guess this wasn't accidental. I'm joking. No, I'm joking. People love the conspiracy mindset. But no, you're right. There's some like beloved actors. The Robert Duvall thing that hit hard. James Van Der Beek also hit hard.
So we're gonna talk about it. I decided to look into the origins of the deaths in threes, and I came across this really interesting think piece that a gentleman wrote that's basically that says that it has its origins in Scots Irish history, but also in Appalachian history. So I'm going to read from that a little bit. We'll talk about Eric Dane. We'll talk about, maybe you can share some, like I love some Robert Duvall, but I'm sure that you love more like, you know, film nerd Robert Duvall. Like I see it and I'm like, I love Gone in 60 Seconds. Are you kidding me? Like I love him as an actor, but we're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk a little bit about Tom Noonan because he was another big one. Heat being one of my favorite movies of all time. It was sad to see that happen. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about, if that's not depressing enough, after you die, Meta is looking to find a way to keep you alive in perpetuity, spewing out garbage on their platforms via large language models. So they've got a patent for this, and it's very disturbing. We're going to talk about it. Also, Kurtz is going to give us her review of Wuthering Heights.
Yep, I saw it. Now, I did see an unauthorized camera recording from a theater, but I can speak to, I think, the quality of the movie.
Yep. So we've got that. Also, if we have time, I stress, if we have time, I want to point out how the left has become the new QAnon, because they are now positing actress Mia Farrow is positing that it's possible that Ghislaine Maxwell has been replaced by a body double. Because Trump has broken all of these people's brains, and they wouldn't care about the Epstein stuff if they didn't have some way to tie it back to Trump. So we've got that. We got a whole bunch of other stuff. If you are ready, Kurtz, we can go. Are you ready?
I am. Let's do it.
She is good for it. All right. Why don't you tell us what's going on with Armie Hammer's mom, Drew Hammer, that is in fact her real name. She looks to be starting her own podcast because she has seen what being canceled has done to her son and is looking to basically start a podcast in the same space as what happened to her son.
Right. So Armie Hammer has a rather colorful familial history. His mom is a hardcore born-again Christian, evangelical. In fact, I think at Liberty University, there is a building named after her. And so and it's interesting, she went on Armie Hammer's podcast. He's had a podcast now for a good year or so.
It's defunct now, they said. It's
oh,
done.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe because his film career is starting to pick up again. So hopefully, good for him. But yeah, his mom was a guest, and there was all of this tension between them because she kept talking about Jesus nonstop, and he kept trying to have like a wider conversation. So anyway, but apparently she is starting a podcast, and it's going to be devoted to canceled people, individuals who have been canceled. And so I don't know what the guest list is, but I can say that she is definitely a character. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if she can pull some bigger celebrities.
Here's the thing. Like, this is the same pitch that Piers Morgan basically said when he started his new show. When he started Piers Morgan Uncensored. No conversation is off. Like it's the cringiest thing in the world to me now. Like maybe I'm just jaded and black pilled on all of this, but it's like all it is a selling pitch for these people to like. I don't believe anymore that they care about the conversation. I think most of the time she might have a better argument than Piers Morgan, right? Because she has firsthand effects of what happened to her son, and theoretically she found a way to make money off of it because somebody's willing to hand her the reins of a podcast. I don't know if does she have a history in media?
No, I think it's going to be hard for me to swallow this one because everything that I've seen her do, everything is just 100% geared toward proselytizing for Jesus. And no offense to our evangelical friends in the audience, but I'm just saying she pretty much has a one-track mind. And so and she's very kind of flamboyant in that way. Like when Armie had her on his podcast, they're sitting here, he's trying to have a conversation with her, and she tells him a story about how she feels like she just experienced a miracle because she found a parking spot right outside of Armie Hammer's door. And she's like, I was just driving around and I was like, Lord, please give me a parking spot. And then there was one right in front. And so here's the funny thing, though. Armie then rolls his eyes and he says to her, Mom, do you know that it's trash day today and you're going to get a citation? You're going to get towed if your car is out there right now. And she jumps up and runs out to get her car. And he's just like dying laughing. So I don't know. I just wonder how religion focused or Christianity focused this is going to be. I'm not sure if people know what they're getting into with her, but she is a character for sure.
She so for her, like, again, with no media experience, it's also one of those things. I guess the first thing that I thought of here, somebody in the chat says, did you see the armpit comment? I did not see the armpit comment, but somebody can like repost it down there if they want to. But I was just thinking about how like these types of actors, because she lists her what she called like her dream list of people. Like even putting Mel Gibson on there seems ridiculous given how long ago it was. And Mel Gibson works constantly in Hollywood. He is of such power in Hollywood because of his producing power that he can literally.
Oh well, that might be because of the Christianity thing though. Because
Yes, I'm sure it is.
maybe that's how she's probably just touting like, okay, I've got Mel Gibson. But I agree with you. That one seems a little passe.
But no, the reason I say that is like I think about these people. First of all, like Mel Gibson just said some crazy shit back in like what was like 2009 or something. It was a long time ago. Yeah. But they put next to Kanye West, obviously said crazy shit. Kevin Spacey was accused of stuff that has nothing to do with just talking and a lot of actual doing, obviously none of it really being proven in a court of law. But I was thinking about these interviews used to be done by like Diane Sawyer and people who had like I guess like a screen presence and a reputation for doing hard-hitting interviews. Nowadays, we've kind of farmed that out to influencers to do these types of things, and that's fine, but it's not like we look at Drew Hammer, which is a great name, by the way. We don't look to Drew Hammer for like hard-hitting questions about, what it was like to be canceled and stuff like that. And it just feels so passe these days because most of the time it means that they're off TV or movies for a couple of years, maybe, and then they find their way back and nothing really changes. Like it just doesn't feel like this is the conversation that people were having 5 years ago.
Now, you're right. It does feel like it's a little outdated now. It's definitely not edgy like it would have been. I felt that way about the recent movie, The Hunt, with Julia Roberts, and there was some other Andrew Garfield, and it was supposed to be about a cancellation in academia. And I felt like that movie would have been really edgy and interesting if it had come out like 5 years ago. But I do think that the conversation has moved on a bit. And these people who have been quote unquote canceled, they are mostly getting their lives back. That doesn't compensate for all the money that they've lost in litigation and all of the shame and financial. Yeah. But I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying. But she's such a flamboyant character. I bet this is going to be something a little bit off the beaten path.
I mean, maybe conservatives will be into it if it's heavy. But I feel like the religious aspect of it won't work in the podcast if it's too on the nose, especially if the people she's inviting don't share those views. Because most of the time it works when you share similar views and you want to talk about something that you're passionate about. In her case, that's Christianity. But if it becomes combative with people during interviews about, how their career was ruined by, for whatever reason, they just feel like they're on different avenues. The only way I could think of this being worse was the first thing I thought of when I thought is, did you remember the Ned Fulmer stuff? He started a podcast. Was he one of the Try Guys or whatever? And he got canceled because he cheated on his wife or whatever. And he's got a podcast now called Rock Bottom, where he just talks to people who have done things that got them in trouble, and they just kind of vent over their, the fact that they made bad choices.
I'll tell you a podcast that I found to be really interesting, and it surprised me because I thought it would be an eye roll. But do you remember the celebrity pastor Carl Lentz? He was Justin Bieber's pastor.
We talked about.
We made fun of him. I think we made fun of him because he was pretty ridiculous. I think.
But there was another guy, right? Judah Friedlander or something. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I might be completely.
I don't recognize that name, but
he had like a spiritual advisor named Judah, I think.
Probably some of these celebrities with their entourages. But anyway, this pastor, he was the Hillsong, the main Hillsong guy, right? And so he had this very public fall from grace because it turns out that he had been having extramarital affairs and so forth. And so anyway, he went away for a couple of years. I think Tyler Perry even let him stay at his home. And he has now come back with his wife. And this sounds so cringe, but I'm telling you, it's actually really, really good. They do a YouTube show and a podcast now about getting through infidelity in a relationship. And I watch, not for personal applicability, but it's just fascinating. I thought it was going to be a train wreck and I was going to make fun of it.
So that's what you thought, like you thought it was going to be the type of thing where it's like it's a slow motion car wreck and
it sounds cringe. And it also sounds like to me like, okay, dude, you have to be in the limelight so bad that now this is your new shtick, like, oh, this is how to get through an affair. But actually it is really raw and real. real and compelling, and I think good for him. I think he's actually a much better preacher now doing this than what he was doing before. But that's kind of what I was thinking about with these podcast ideas.
I'm like trying to remember who the pastor was. That Judah Smith is a prominent pastor and leader of Church Home who has served as longtime spiritual advisor. I don't know where I got Judah Friedlander from, but it was Judah Smith. So I had the first name right for that. I can't say that a podcast like this really, it just doesn't interest me anymore, because I feel like most of the time these stories have been picked apart so often that, like, maybe Mel Gibson would be kind of interesting. The rest of them, I don't really find them all that interesting. Is there somebody who you would like to see on a podcast like that wasn't named there? Somebody that you think...
you know, I'd love to see Marilyn Manson finally talk about everything that he has been through, but that might be a long time coming. He's busy touring.
Has he ever done a podcast or anything like that?
He has not done a single interview, not even about that topic, but of any kind, not a single interview since all this happened in 2021. And so I would imagine that he would or will win all of the legal cases. He's finally clear of them. There's still 2 pesky civil suits that are hanging on to him that are still working their way through the courts. And one of them has been dismissed, and then she's trying to bring it back with the new window legislation and, all of that mess. So anyways, I'd like to see him. I think that'd be interesting, but I do agree with you. I think a lot of this is it's passe.
All right, let's talk about Crystal Hefner. If you don't know who Crystal Hefner is, it is the ex-wife of Hugh Hefner, who's since passed, and she is now coming out once again talking about problems. I don't even know how to put it. It's not problems in their marriage. She's accusing him of vile things, and of course Hugh Hefner is no longer alive to defend himself, but this has been said in the past. She has said that she felt like a prisoner in their home when they were living at the Playboy Mansion, and she seems to have built a whole second career off of, kind of tarnishing Hugh Hefner's reputation. Say what you want about the guy himself. He's not allowed, he's not alive anymore to defend himself. Did you see this?
Yes. So I have pretty negative feelings about Crystal Hefner. I'll just say right at the outset, I have very ambivalent feelings about Hugh Hefner. I think that there were definitely it was highly likely that he did do certain things that were immoral and unethical. For example, it seems like he videotaped certain guests of his without their knowledge, and did have a kind of a treasure trove of celebrity sex tapes. It seems like he was aware that there was some drugging and non-consensual sex of women going on, like with Bill Cosby on his premises in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And so, so do I think he was a good guy? No, but I do think that Crystal Hefner absolutely profited off of him and her association with him, and I believe that she was not abused. She doesn't even claim to be abused herself. No. What she claims is that she was just too young and financially vulnerable to know what she was getting into, and that she lived in a kind of a gilded cage, et cetera, et cetera. And I just don't have any sympathy for that. Now, what's recently happened is that she has partnered with Gloria Allred. And I'm sorry, anytime you partner with Gloria Allred, right there.
Give people a breakdown of who Gloria Allred is.
Gloria Allred is the attorney who has represented, it feels like 90% of these Me Too claimants through the years. She represented, for example, one of Armie Hammer's main false accusers. She represented one of Andrew Cuomo's most ridiculous accusers, and on and on and on. And so there's always a feminist, quote unquote, feminist angle with Gloria Allred in the cases she takes on. So she's partnered with Crystal Hefner. Crystal Hefner claims that Hugh Hefner had scrapbooks filled with naked photos of women through the years, playmates, girlfriends, women who were staying at the house, etc. And and those are now being held, apparently, she believes, by the Hugh Hefner Foundation at a private residence. And she claims that she is afraid that those contain a lot of non-consensual photos that might fall into improper hands and be publicly leaked, etc. Right? So she's on a kind of a public campaign to get those secured. I don't have any problem with the desire to secure potentially embarrassing photos of people, particularly if they don't want them out there. But I find Crystal Hefner's reincarnation as a kind of a Me Too rights crusader to be really suspect, and I don't like that she and Hugh Hefner's son apparently doesn't like it either because he's been speaking out against her. I don't like that she profited so much off of as Hugh Hefner, and
well,
now
she wrote a book. She wrote a book the other
she wrote
year.
a book.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
this is what it says. On a press conference on Tuesday, Powerhouse attorney Gloria Allred is where she announced that she had filed legal complaints to have her late husband's scrapbooks investigated amid fears that they contained non-consensual photos of naked women and possibly underage girls. Hefner's youngest sons, Marston and Cooper, hit back at Harris in a statement to the Daily Mail, stressing that they had never seen inappropriate images of minors in his scrapbooks. Quote, in response to recent public comments made by Crystal Harris regarding our father in his scrapbooks, we have personally reviewed these materials extensively over many years, as have numerous historians, filmmakers, and journalists, including those who have both celebrated and critically examined his life's work, the siblings said in a statement. So basically saying these have not just been looked at by family who might be out to protect his image for the sake of their own pocketbooks or to protect his memory if you want to be as charitable as possible, but by people who have both positive and negative interpretations of his life and, you know, what he's done with his life. So if it was in fact true, wouldn't those journalists who may have been out there to tell a more salacious side, you know, if that's even possible, of Hugh Hefner's life, would they not have been the first to have noticed this and exposed it to the world?
You would definitely think so. I think that it's time just to let Hugh Hefner rest. And I think it's time for Crystal, particularly, and other women who profited greatly off of their consensual association with him. It's time for them to let him rest.
Well, that's the discussion that they're having about this, right? Is this goes back to, you know, times of great excess socially in America, you know,
Right.
sexual liberation, and we were pushing the boundaries of men and women together in public spaces and the way that we portrayed women to the media and things like that. And we have entered a newly, oddly, you know, given how much Hollywood seems to be obsessed with sex in their television shows, an oddly puritanical view of the world when it comes to women's ability to make decisions for themselves. So they look back at the Playboy days and they've infantilized women who made a decision for themselves. Look, a lot of times selling what would be their dignity for a payday or for exposure and things like that. And they have infantilized grown women. And along the way, we're getting topics like this where they're throwing in the possibility of something even more scandalous in there for the sake of getting headlines and news covers.
I think that's exactly it. And again, that doesn't mean that Hugh Hefner and his friends did not at times engage in unethical behavior.
Absolutely.
But this is just this is not her battle. I'm sorry, Crystal Hefner, this is not your battle to fight. Just go on, live your life. You're engaged. You say that you're free of this. Well, be free of it. Go on.
The quote goes on from the Sun, says, over more than a quarter a century of familiarity with these materials, we have never seen inappropriate images of minors, as has been suggested. The scrapbooks document decades of personal, professional, and family history. Our father lived much of his life publicly and assembled these materials as historical record with the intention that they ultimately be preserved and reviewed for full context, not hidden or concealed. Like, I don't know if I would put that anthropological of a take on Hugh Hefner's scrapbooks.
I will say that I have watched documentaries about Hugh Hefner, and I've read a couple of books about him. And by the way, I've also read a couple of books by Crystal and Holly, former exes, right, who have negative things to say about him. And I will say that he was very pretentious and narcissistic about his place in history.
I bet.
He saw Playboy. He did not see it as just a smut enterprise or just a sex porn thing. He really did think that that Playboy created a lot of cultural changes, and that the sexual revolution would not have happened exactly as it did without him. Now, I'm not saying that I endorse that or think it's something great, but I'm just saying it doesn't surprise me that he would have looked at these scrapbooks and that his sons look at these scrapbooks as being historical records. It doesn't.
I mean, he's kind of, but he was right though. His company changed American history in a lot of ways and has played a huge role in American history. So, you know, we can disagree with the material, but you can't disagree with the impact that he had on society.
No, absolutely not. And by the way, as your audience probably knows, I am not a trad person.
No.
And I think that there were a number of things about the sexual revolution that were very positive. And I know that's not fashionable to say that nowadays online, and people will say, oh, you're crazy or whatever. But I do think that And look, nowadays you look at Playboy, and compared to what's on the internet, compared to what 10-year-olds are looking at on the internet now, it's tame.
So Harris responded to the Suns in a bombshell press conference on Tuesday. She responded, said, Harris fears that some of the women in the images may have been intoxicated at the time they were taken. Therefore, they could not properly consent, and that some of the females may have been underage. So those are two very different things. Underage women being there and adult women being drunk are not the same thing, and conflating the two. It's like when me and Mary were talking about Quiet on Set. They lumped in allegations of abuse of children with like pay disputes and people being mean to each other on set, and you make it harder for the serious claims of abuse to be taken seriously when you say that a bunch of drunk women who knowingly went to the Playboy Mansion weren't able to do a risk assessment for themselves and decide that maybe this isn't the best thing to do if I don't want something to come back and bite me.
Yeah, this is unfortunately one of the strains of modern feminism, modern victim feminism, that I really dislike, which is the idea that in a situation where men and women are consuming alcohol, somehow only the men are responsible for their actions and the women are not responsible for theirs. Or that if a woman is intoxicated, I'm not talking about being passed out drunk, but if a woman is heavy buzzing or is intoxicated or even blackout drunk, people aren't aware of it, that she's not responsible for her actions or can't consent. And I think that my generation, I'm tail end of Gen X, and I think that my generation was maybe one of the last generations that understood that if you were going to go into a sexualized arena and you were going to drink, then you had to expect that certain things might happen. I'm not justifying assault or anything like that, but I think that this new attitude among feminists that if a woman is drinking, then suddenly nothing she does is consensual. That's not right.
Well, it's weird too, because I always bring this back to the way that we have turned sexualization into its own form of like independent business now. Back then, you had to go through the middleman. You had to go through Hugh Hefner. You had to go through one of the adult entertainment companies. Now they can do it on their own, and suddenly it's not shameful anymore because theoretically they believe that there is no middleman that is, I guess, taking advantage of them, kind of ignoring the fact that the platform itself makes it possible. So the only difference being that Hugh Hefner says yes to the photo that gets approved for the magazine, whereas now you just click post with whatever you're posting, whether it's on something like OnlyFans or whatever like that. The same questions will be raised down the line about those platforms, I am sure, where people will say like, look, I was down and out on my luck. Life was, I was struggling in life, and I made the decision to do this, and nobody on the platform told me it might be a bad idea. Nobody on the platform told me that it might affect my future job prospects or cause people to think different of me. That depends on how willing you are to take responsibility for your own actions, and to think that just because it's an independent platform now that people have to sign up for as opposed to be picked up by, by a talent scout or something, I think that that's naive. I think that they will somehow try to blame the platform eventually.
I think you're right. Now, in this case, Crystal Hefner is also talking about personal scrapbooks. So one thing I learned from reading about Hugh Hefner is that he was almost a compulsive picture taker, not just sexual pictures, not just sexual pictures,
voyeuristic in the extreme, I am sure.
But like even just like partying, even going to like fully clothed events or whatever, family things, what he just loved to take pictures. And so I'm sure as many sexualized events, official and unofficial, that he went to and that occurred at the Playboy Mansion, I'm sure he's got pictures of all kinds of things. But again, if you're going to go to the Playboy Mansion and there's a photographer there, then the picture's going to get taken. I don't know what else to say.
It says, it is critical for the public to understand that I am not referring to images that appeared in magazines. My focus is on Hugh Hefner's personal scrapbooks, chronicle private moments that took place behind closed doors. There are serious and unresolved concerns about the scope of what these books contain. The materials span decades, beginning in the 1960s, and may include images of girls who were underage at the time and could not consent to how their images would be retained or controlled. They may also contain images of women who did not consent to their images being taken in the first place. The scrapbooks may include nude images, images being taken before and after sexual activity, and other deeply intimate moments. Again, leave out the children there, because again, you're conflating the two. You're conflating adult women who made the choice to go to the Playboy Mansion and children. And if you find the images of children that have been in that position, then absolutely, by all means, expose it to the world and show us. Otherwise, do not lump that in with, grown women's poor decisions, I guess.
Well, and there were a number of underage women who would lie about their age to get into his company.
Yeah.
Or the thing is that this is one of the things that I don't like about the loose usage of the term children that a lot of people are employing now, is that she could be and probably is talking about 17-year-olds. And while again, I'm not saying that it's all right for older people to hook up with or prey on older teenagers, it's not the best thing, but at the same time, she knows what she's doing, Crystal knows what she's doing, and Gloria Allred know what they're doing when they use this word children. They know what that evokes in someone's mind, and that's just not what we're talking about. We're talking generally about like 17-year-olds trying to sneak in to a party at the Playboy Mansion, or trying to sneak into something to get their picture taken so they can be in one of these magazines, or they can be one of Hugh Hefner's girlfriends or whatever.
Yep. All right, let's move on. Let's do cute of the day. Guys, remember, as always, I would love for you guys to submit your pets, because everybody in the world loves to... If you have pets, I know you do, you want to brag about them. That's what you want to do. Submit them on X to me, at Brett Dasovic on that platform. Use the hashtag PCCPets. Some people like to tell their own little stories about it. This one is from Rayanne. Is it Shinabarger? Thank you so much for submitting this. Says, I'll see your drunk kitty and raise you a stoned Loki. He wasn't, just dim-witted. He does look stoned there. I will give you that. He does look stoned, and that's okay. That's okay. As long as he wasn't, it's okay to just look the part there. Go ahead and submit those, guys. We really appreciate it. We always want to help you guys brag about your pets. All right, let's talk about actor Eric Dane. He passed away at the age of 53. He had ALS, and it was less than a year from when he announced it to the public to when he passed. And he is one of many separate actors who have died just in the last couple of weeks. It wasn't just Eric Dane. We had Robert Duvall. We had Tom Noonan. And I didn't necessarily originally include James Van Der Beek because it's been a couple weeks since then now, but you could throw James Van Der Beek in the mix there as well. And it got me to thinking, and we will talk more about Eric Dane. If you know him, you might know him from Grey's Anatomy. He was what they called McSteamy on there, which is another part of, it's a cultural moment in history as Grey's Anatomy.
Euphoria. A lot of people might know him from Euphoria. So the TV show, that Sydney Sweeney's breast starred in was also in
well,
that.
he was, I read some stuff, him kind of talking about his role on that show and all of that, but he was a big part of pop culture over several decades. Yep. And it says his representatives said that he died I don't even know how to pronounce that, but it was from ALS, from Lou Gehrig's disease. He says he spent his final days surrounded by dear friends, his devoted wife, and his two beautiful daughters, Billy and Georgia, who were the center of his world, they said in a statement. Throughout his journey with ALS, he became a passionate advocate for awareness and research, determined to make a difference for others fighting the same fight. He will be deeply missed and lovingly remembered always. Eric adored his fans and is forever grateful for the outpouring of love and support that he's received. And I got to thinking about it, right, because he was on the younger side. 53 is still quite young. James Van Der Beek was 48. Now, Tom Noonan and Robert Duvall were both obviously much older. I think Tom Noonan was in his 70s, like in mid or late 70s. Somebody can double check me on that if I'm wrong. I apologize. And then, of course, Robert Duvall was 95. And I thought less of Robert Duvall at the time. I thought about that case less at the time because he was just so much older. You kind of expect it to happen. But it got me to thinking about the concept of celebrities who die in threes. And we've talked about this before on the channel. There's a lot of famous cases of this. Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens, obviously all in a car crash. You had Ed McMahon, Farrah Fawcett, and Michael Jackson between June 2009. It was the 23rd, the 25th, and the 25th as well for Michael Jackson. So Farrah Fawcett apparently and Michael Jackson both died on the same day. And it got me to thinking where this superstition comes from. And apparently it traces back to, it's got Scots-Irish heritage, and then became a superstition from Appalachia. And I found this article from something called the Martin County Mountain Citizen, and this guy wrote a piece about it. He says, "Do deaths come in threes?" Appalachian superstitions and omens. Many of you have probably heard about the superstition in our region. I've always found these interesting and at times believable. The superstition of deaths coming in threes is often traced to the Appalachian region of the United States, to the beliefs of Scots-Irish ancestors in Europe. My wife and I have noticed that when a celebrity passes away, that many a times there's a couple more around the same time that dies. The same goes for well-known members of certain communities. The number 3 has been brought up in many different cultures, such as the shamrock has 3 leaves, the pyramids has 3 sides, and in religious terms, you have Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. There are other Appalachian superstitions that many deal with. If you hear a screech owl at dusk, someone will die. Something my dad always told me when visiting cemeteries was to not step on graves. It was considered bad luck and disrespectful at the same time. Well, it's definitely disrespectful. I don't know about bad luck, but it's definitely disrespectful. Another one I've heard from older days is that when an older person dies, their clock will stop running at the same time. If a bird gets in your house, it's a bad omen. Sometimes if you have a death in the family or someone close to you, I recall my mother believing this once a bird got in our house, and even thought I was young, I could tell it was really upsetting her. Another thing that came from our Scottish ancestors was a belief that if you heard 3 knocks at your door and no one was there, it was a sign that there was a death in the family soon. If a cow moos after dark, someone will die. Have you ever stopped yourself before walking under a ladder? I definitely have, and done this and still do, although it is rare. I am not near many ladders. So I just thought about it, and I got into this because I actually find myself as somebody who tends to lean into the pragmatic, right? When it comes to solutions, I err on the side of pragmatism, but even I catch myself falling into what one might call magical thinking. Now, this happens to me quite a bit. So like yesterday, we had Vera Dark on the channel, and when she got on, we do our sound check. You know what this is like. We do our sound check about 1 p.m. She signs on, and her internet was immediately having problems. Like, I could see her bar go from green to yellow to orange. And somehow, I didn't take that as a bad omen. I'm like, oh, you know what makes perfect sense to me? If the problems are happening now, it's probably going to be fine when the show's going on, just because there's like a sense of irony to it. And there is this need for human beings to explain the inexplicable by looking for things where there may not be anything. And I wonder why it is that this happens so specifically with celebrities, because they capture the public interest, right? So oftentimes, you know, you could live in a big city. You live in New York, you could live if you live in a big enough high rise, 3 people could die in that building in a short period of time, and you wouldn't really think about it. You wouldn't really care because you don't know any of them. But people that capture the public interest ignite that sense of magical thinking in a lot of us. I was just wondering if any of that kind of rang true to you.
Well, there's in psychology, there is a term called the Baader-Meinhof complex. Now, actually, Germans and historians will know that the Baader-Meinhof complex was an East German terrorist gang, but in psychology, this term was coined by a psychiatrist who had heard about the Baader-Meinhof group, but had never registered with him until he saw a movie about them, and then he started noticing that he was hearing that term after he saw this movie, and so basically it describes sort of like a fallacy whereby when we start noticing things, then we tend to think that there's a trend, when in fact it's just that something has caught our attention, right? So I guess what I would wonder is, if you were to do like a research project on this, is it true that really only 3 celebrities have died, or are there others that are dying,
4.
not really noticing them, right?
So there's 4 in this one. Like I said, if when I posted the...
But I'm saying they're dying all the time, but you're not really noticing until like it catches your attention, and then you're like, oh, there's another one. I don't know. Or maybe like they are just dying like this month for some reason.
I mean, but because technically it's 4, because James Vanderbeek as well was in a very short period of time, all here in February. Is there of all of these actors, is there? I'm assuming Robert Duvall is the one that you've got the most history with as far as movies.
I think
because he was
so.
in Apocalypse Now.
Yes, he was. And the interesting thing, or the kind of ironic thing about that, is his character in Apocalypse Now was known for being notoriously indestructible. That he, in fact, the narrator, Martin Sheen, says about him, his name is Colonel Kilgore. And he says, everybody could just tell that Kilgore wasn't going to get so much as a scratch in this war. And if you've ever seen the famous I Love the Smell of Napalm in the Morning scene, he's standing on a beach where it's raining down, the Viet Cong are raining down bombs on him and bullets, and everyone else is cowering and crouching, and he's just standing there, with takes his shirt off. He's like, I'm gonna go surfing and stuff. So the idea that the indestructible Colonel Kilgore is finally dead, it's a little sad. But yeah, he was great in that. He was great in The Godfather. He was in all three of them as the consigliere of the family, and of course he's done a lot of other stuff. I mean, Gone in 60 Seconds, he was good in that.
That was I thought like my place in the world is whenever an actor of like immense fame dies, I'm going to be the one who's posting the movie that's just not as important as everybody else. Because that's the first thing I thought of was Gone in 60 Seconds. It really was. Because I love that movie. I refuse to even call it a guilty pleasure, but I love that film. And Tom Noonan obviously was in Manhunter, but he was also in Heat. So he's worked with Michael Mann multiple times.
He's so creepy looking. He's great. He was in that cult horror movie House of the Devil too, which I thought was kind of overrated. But he's really good at playing very creepy looking characters.
They did that. They used that to their advantage. He was. I mean, I don't know how much work he's done. It's 2026 now before he passed, but he was in one of like the first 2 episodes of the show The Blacklist with James Spader. Played a character called the Stew Maker, where he would basically tarp off an entire hotel room and just put people in acid and turn them into stew. And he would do it like he would get basically naked and look creepy while he was doing it. And I was just thinking about that, like, whoever the casting agent for that episode was, like, obviously had seen Manhunter from Michael Mann, and you could say that him playing Dollarhide in that movie that went on to that franchise being as successful as it was. We just talked about Silence of the Lambs the other day because we were talking about how they've turned Buffalo Bill into this tragic character that you have to apologize for because of trans rights or something like that.
Right. I remember actually with Silence of the Lambs, even at the time, there were some LGBT and trans groups that were protesting it, but yeah, he was a great character actor, and he was creepy as hell in that movie. So, and then who was the other one? Oh yeah, Vanderbeek and
Vanderbeek did Dawson's Creek, and again, so for Eric Dane, he was in Grey's Anatomy, which everybody has at least heard of if they haven't watched it. And the trope of like the male doctor being kind of a sex symbol in a lot of ways comes from him and Patrick Dempsey in that show. But I mean, you could say go back to ER, I guess. ER was before that.
But it was definitely the whole Shonda Rhimes highly sexualized thing. But Eric Dane, I don't know if you saw this or not, but it's come out that Johnny Depp allowed Eric Dane to live rent-free at one of his big homes in LA. And so good for Johnny Depp for doing that. It's very generous of him. And I also think it's really cool that, Eric Dane and his wife, Rebecca Gayheart, they were going through a divorce before his diagnosis. And apparently when he got his diagnosis, she called that off, and they didn't romantically reconcile, but she was very much his best friend.
Well, they were like they'd been separated for like 7 years or something.
Yeah,
right?
A while. And so she's been his main caretaker, apparently. And so I think that that's really beautiful that she hung in there with him. But yeah, and you know what I was also thinking about is Sandra Bullock's husband, Brian Randall, died, what was that, a couple of years ago of ALS. And he was also very young when he was diagnosed. I think he was in his early 50s. But, I always felt so bad for Sandra Bullock because she had such a hard time with Jesse James, her first marriage. It turns out he was a sex addict. And then she found love with this guy. He seemed like a normal guy. He wasn't a celebrity. He was this good looking, photographer, but a normal guy. And she seemed really in love, and they had a stable life. And then he died. So it's really tragic.
Are there any other stories you've covered with something similar to this?
I'm trying to think of any other ALS stories. I mean,
it doesn't have to necessarily be ALS, but like, the story about them reconciling is very sweet, right? Especially given that they have 2 kids, and what Rebecca Gayheart essentially said was like, we want to leave a good impression for our daughters so that they understand that you don't abandon someone in times of crisis.
Right, right. And I always kind of felt like whatever happened with Eric Dane and Rebecca Gayheart, that that was not so much about animosity or cheating as it was about his own private struggles. He had to, you probably know this,
Yes.
he had to take time off from different projects at times, or was basically fired from Grey's Anatomy due to drug addiction and depression. And so I think that he has had a long and difficult struggle even before the ALS, and I think that was probably put a lot of strain on their marriage.
So actually, yeah. So he went in, he checked himself into rehab in 2011, and then he was doing the show The Last Ship. That was the one I was talking about earlier. It was on TNT. He actually took a break from that show in the middle because he was going through a really bad bout of depression. And one of the things he said, and I'm not going to play the clip because I don't know if it would be copyrighted today, but he gave an interview that was specifically meant to be posted after his death, posthumously. And he basically says, like, don't get wrapped up in your problems. You have to learn to live in the moment now and kind of let those things fall by the wayside. Now, a lot of times that feels like something you can only really come to terms with in the face of something like impending death. It's very hard to live in the moment when you do have like a lot of time, theoretically a lot of time left, right? When the time is based on how much you have left and not whether or not you're going to be able to pay your bills, your priorities change.
Right. And I think again, those kinds of maxims are easier said than done. I love that line from, I believe it's Glengarry Glen Ross, when Al Pacino is talking about this idea, and he says people always say live in the moment, but there's no way to actually capture a moment. As soon as you think of a moment, it's gone, right? And so I do think that I understand what he's trying to say. Like, you want to make the most of your life now, and not detach from what's going on now to some future time. But at the same time, like you said, it's kind of difficult to live as if you're dying, right? And I think that's what he's saying.
I mean, it is one of those things that I actually talk about a fair amount, usually on social media, which is like learning to live with a sense of gratitude for what you have has a lot of benefits. It can cause problems in that if you show nothing but gratitude all the time, sometimes you get complacent because you're just happy with what you've got, and you have to find a balance between gratitude for the things that you do have in life, which, to be fair, all of us have. If you are watching this show from anywhere in the Western world, you're already better off than a lot of places, right? If you're watching this show from the United States of America, you already live a better life than so many places in the world, and that's not something that's even really up for debate. But at the same time, if you just live in constant gratitude, you can become complacent and you don't grow and you don't change. And it's about finding a balance between the two of those. Or at least that's the way I try to find it with life. Because I tend to deal with my problems by focusing on what I do have rather than what I don't have. But the people that focus on what they don't have can go down two paths. They can be the type of person who wallows and is annoyed that they don't have it, or they're the type of person who's more proactive and they say, I don't want to live without these things, and they tend to go after them, they attain them, but then they never really seem to be satisfied by the things that they attain.
Yeah, it would be great if we could find that balance. Basically, whatever you do, you're gonna have regrets at the end.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah,
but for these actors, remember, a lot of these people, when people ask about when people talk about the stupidity of actors, or they talk about acting as if it's silly, and in a lot of ways, the acting itself can probably feel silly. That was like, we did that topic about I forget who it was from Twilight, the lady from Twilight. Kristen Stewart talking about how only men are method actors because acting is inherently silly. Therefore, they need to attach more meaning to it than there actually is. It changes a lot of lives, and it moves a lot of people. Art moves a lot of people. And I understand that I'm not exactly preaching to the choir here, because conservative audiences in general don't necessarily take the most pro-art stance in a lot of things, and I get why. They're focused more pragmatically on the function of life rather than, the things that, in my opinion, you create a life of good function so that you can also create the things that make art, life worth living, which are things like art and love and all of those things. So actors do play a role in that, and that's why people like Robert Duvall or Eric Dane or all of them, they end up being remembered fondly by people after the fact. Even if we think it's silly, they change a lot of lives.
Right. Agreed.
That's what it feels like. All right. let's talk. I should have changed the orders on these because this one is also very weird and creepy. Yeah, we are gonna keep talking about death. Apparently, guys, death is not the final plane, or at least it will not be if you have a Facebook profile or an Instagram profile, because it looks like Meta has actually filed for a patent that will allow them to keep you posting from beyond the grave, which just sounds horrible. The idea of not being able to escape Facebook even in death is like the worst possible thing that I can think of. It says the company was granted a patent in late December that outlines how a large language model can simulate a person's social media activity, such as responding to content posted by real people. The language model may be used for simulating the user when the user is absent from social networking systems, when the user takes a long break, or if the user is deceased. That is so depressing. We have no plans to move forward with this example. I don't believe them for a second. I don't think they'd be honest with you if they were. If you're no longer posting online, whether that's because you need a break from social media or you die, your followers' user experience will be affected. In short, your followers will miss you. And instead of just taking a break, you can use an algorithm to keep posting. And I know a lot of people on here probably checked out some of the Scott Adams AI videos. That's what this feels like they're trying to do for everybody.
Yeah, this reminds me also of the app that people were freaking out about. What was it, a month or so ago, where you can record your grandmother while she's alive, and it just needs a brief recording of her.
Well, that was because the ad was the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
The ad was creepy, but people were saying, oh, it's demonic. You know, you'll be able to basically have the presence of your loved one here. I guess we just need to get used to. I'm not saying that all this stuff is great, but I guess we just kind of need to get used to it, because there's just going to be more and more of it as this technology gets more and more sophisticated. This is certainly not a service that I'm interested in, though.
What are your thoughts? Like, because this is kind of the proof that whether they'll admit it or not, most of Silicon Valley are transhumanists, or they view themselves in the way that they're going to push humanity beyond just our physical forms.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's definitely a soulless perspective, because this won't be me living on in this. And it's also the idea that Silicon Valley is basically mining our minds for content that it will then use later on. It's kind of like in that movie Ex Machina about he gets her brain, the Steve Jobs type character, Elon Musk type character. He develops the brain for his android by monitoring all of the Google searches that people are engaging in online, basically like using all of us humans as a way to mine for the emotions and cognition that his AI will have, right? And so in that, and even Elon Musk has said that he views human beings as the booting system for AI, and so it is pretty scary.
Over here in the chat, Kiwasant is right. Says, can you imagine how these accounts will get hacked and used to scam grieving family members? Not just that, but every so often they bug. These systems bug, and they start, Grok starts eliciting slurs and stuff like that. What's going to happen when your account just goes wild? And I'm not even talking about the version of this where your family member has passed. What if, like, you're going on vacation, right? And you are so narcissistic that you think that the world needs to hear more of your opinions when you're away from the internet, which is insane to begin with, that level of narcissism. And you go on, you're going on vacation. Your husband or your wife is like, we're doing a no phone vacation. We're going to leave him here. We'll have a dumb phone in case we get stranded somewhere, but no social media, none of that. And you're like, okay, well, the world needs to know what my thoughts are on everything going on, so I'm gonna set this bot account to post as me while we're gone. And then it says like some slur, or it gets hacked. You can't take that back. Like that shit's out there. It's like nobody believes anybody when they say I got hacked, right? So you're theoretically going to be responsible for something that's spewed by something that's not even you. And then you're going to have to pay the piper for that down the line.
Yeah, I mean, unless this becomes something widespread where people just get used to the machines or the technology going crazy, the AI. But I guess it's marketed at people like us who want to keep putting content out
Yeah,
there
it's for the
while we go
creators.
on vacation. So I don't know. Maybe I should start using it. Actually, maybe
Nah.
it's a great tool.
No, so here's the thing. I go through phases. I go through phases where I post a lot on X. There'll be days where I'll have like 5 or 6 posts. Then there's several days where I don't post anything because there's literally nothing where I'm like, I have no interesting thoughts on this. I'm not going to just post for the sake of posting. That doesn't bother me at all, right? But some people, they understand algorithmically, especially if you're monetized on those platforms, you need to be posting all the time. You need to be engaging with big accounts all the time because you're not looking at it as a place to share your genuine, actual feelings. You're looking at it as a place where you can monetize and make money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They go on. It says the impact on the users is much more severe and permanent if the user is deceased and can never return to the social networking platform. Oh my goodness. Heaven forbid somebody dies and can't post on Facebook anymore. Okay, so this is actually something that happened, and this is actually worth sharing. So when we were just back in Michigan for my wife's grandma's funeral, and after her grandma passed back in December, and they waited to have the memorial service till after the holidays, right? Because everybody was traveling and stuff like that, and so. One of the things that came up was like her social media accounts. She had a Facebook, and her phone was then, like her daughter has her phone. So like it still showed her Facebook as online. But and so people were interacting with her account as if she was still alive, and she wasn't. And that's just that's just the base level of what happens in the weird way in which our profiles live on after death and turn us in, kind of does in a weird way make us quasi transhumanists as people that we can't escape these profiles after we've passed on.
Right. I mean, we already have this, like you said, to a degree with these accounts of people that we know who are dead. These counts are still up, I guess, unless family members petition to have them taken down or
To fill the void, Meta would essentially create a digital clone of your social media presence, training a model on user-specific data, including historical platform activity such as comments, likes, or content, to understand how you would, or rather did, behave. I would hope that all of my spelling errors remain and it gets the things wrong. I hope it says at least as one word, which I still do to this day. I refuse to correct that because that was a product of the 180 character limit, and you had to limit what you typed so that you could say as much as you wanted. It's a product of texting error. I hope it gets those quirks and eccentricities right. Otherwise, heaven forbid, how will people know that it's supposed to be me? The clone can then respond to other people's content by liking and commenting. Like, what if what happens is like you're like it starts replying creepy shit on other people's profile, and you're like, what, are you saying that I was creepy during my lifetime because you're saying stuff like that now?
Well, yeah, is it going to be like crappy AI that really misapproximates your character and your expression, or is it going to be pretty accurate? I guess maybe there'd be different like levels of it. If you want to pay for something sophisticated, a really good AI service.
And the other thing is that Mark Zuckerberg was actually in court this week because there's a lawsuit going on. Did we talk about this last week? The lawsuit going on at Facebook because of the beauty filters, and the lady saying that Facebook made her she made her addicted to social media. And this is at trial right now. Snapchat settled out of court. I think another platform settled out of court. But basically, Mark Zuckerberg had to answer questions about like whether they used beauty filters, and women are getting addicted to all of this stuff on social media. These platforms are a can of worms that cannot be undone anymore, and it's very, very depressing in a lot of ways to me. Like are you going to have your platform continue on, or are you just going to tell whoever ends up inheriting your social media to just shut it down?
Brett, when I am gone, I don't give a flying fuck. I've told my family, you can put my body in a trash bag and feed it to the dogs. I don't give a shit what happens after I'm gone.
You're not looking for a specific exit?
Not care, no.
I'm the same way, right? And again, that's the pragmatist view of the world. It's like, well, I'm not going to know, so
Right.
Because me and Olivia have had these discussions. We have to have these discussions now. Like, what would you what would you want to happen if, God forbid something happened to you? Those are discussions that you actually have to have.
I can see if people have kids that they'd care more. Like maybe you don't want to cause your kids some pain if some of these loose ends are out there, but no, I do not care. So I guess if my AI cloned self wants to go crazy and start cursing everyone out, then it can.
See, that would be like in the true in true honor of your channel. It's going to keep releasing videos. Like you'll have to train because eventually one day, and Tim will say this all the time, like eventually one day, like I won't even be here. We're gonna put an AI as me, and you're never gonna be able to tell. Like what they'll do, they will actually train it to be bad at reading out loud. So the only way you guys would be able to tell, you guys in the chat, I'm looking at all of you, the only way you guys would be able to tell that I was AI is if I started reading articles and there were no mistakes, rather than me umming and ahhing my way through the articles, which you guys know is what happens every time that I read something. So one day, I'm going to be talking, I'm going to be making my boring points, and then I'm just going to read this paragraph perfect. And somebody's like, I don't know about all that. Like, I don't think Brett can read that well. It's not going to happen. It's going to be bad. So, and you can have them release videos about Johnny Depp and Marilyn Manson and Candace Owens.
What will I be doing? Will I just be like sleeping on the couch?
Is that what you think that you'd be doing? No, you should actually. What you could do is you could train it to do skit videos, like you love to do the skit videos. With the wigs
absolutely. It could do a lot of the spy skits for me.
Yeah. All right. So I want you to take the time to tell everybody what you thought about Wuthering Heights, because we've covered the movie extensively. As far as the box office, it kind of underperformed in America. It overperformed overseas. I saw more than a few tweets about it, talking about that it was a bit shocking what they thought was actually shown on screen. Some people saying that it looks like they're trying to market to the book talk generation of women. But as somebody who was a college professor, I am sure that you have some thoughts on this movie as it relates to literature.
Well, I mean, actually, I was surprised by a couple of things. First of all, I was surprised at how boring I found it. And that's not, I don't mean to insult anyone in the audience who wasn't bored by it, but just personally, and they may say, well, you know the plot. Okay, yeah, but I mean, I've seen a lot of movies based on books and that I've read and have not had this reaction to it. I thought that it was really kind of paradoxical in that on the one hand, there was a pretty good bit amount of sex, and you could see that Emerald Fennell, the writer-director, was trying to push the envelope with certain things. For example, the first scene in the film, not to give anything away, it's the first scene, is of an execution where a corpse, a man is dying, he's being strangled after a hanging, and he gets an erection, and there's a kid in the audience who's like, oh, look, he's got a stiffy, and everyone starts laughing. And it's like Emerald Fennell would do these things where you could see that she was trying to push buttons, trying to get a reaction, and doing something kind of kinky or weird with sexuality. And yet, outside of that, the story itself, I thought it was a pretty dull version of Wuthering Heights. I also did not think that, and I may be in the minority, but I didn't think that Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie had great chemistry.
That's insane, because the first thing that they should have been testing for is screen.
Well, maybe I was wrong. I mean, I looked at the audience score, and it has a 70-something% audience score. So again, this is just my reaction. But I did not feel that they actually had, especially with all of the sex going on and the masturbation and all these different things that you're seeing on screen going on with these characters. I didn't think I've seen movies that I thought were more erotic, definitely a lot more erotic. I'll tell you though, one of my biggest complaints that I was not expecting, I thought that the soundtrack, the Charlie XCX soundtrack that she wrote specifically for this movie, the songs were good in and of themselves, but I thought the soundtrack was very intrusive, and I thought that it gave the movie a real juvenile aspect.
It's set period, right? It's set as a period piece.
Yeah,
They
so
don't
it's
they
set as
don't
a
like
period,
change
yeah.
that, right? So
No.
why would you use an artist that's so clearly of current year?
Well, and and the thing is her music. Again, I'm not dissing her music, but it has a kind of a sort of a teenage girl feel to it,
There's
and
a
and it was
$20 super chat here. Sorry to interrupt you. Says, is Kate Bush's Wuthering Heights song a more faithful adaptation?
I don't know Kate Bush's Wuthering Heights song, so I can't
Okay,
I can't address that.
Continue.
But I just felt like it was very intrusive. There were so many of her songs sprinkled throughout, and it was loud, and it felt like just when things were building to some kind of an interesting emotional or erotic moment, then one of her songs would come in. It just, to me, almost started feeling like a collection of music videos for Charlie XCX. And so I'd be interested to hear what your audience, when some of them start seeing this film, what they think of it, because I felt like it was a lot duller than I expected. I felt like the chemistry didn't really work, and again, I felt the soundtrack was intrusive. So I don't know.
It's insane that they didn't have chemistry, because when you're making something that's literally set around the idea of people with such magnetic chemistry that they can't stay, you know, because the book, from what you've told me, is that the whole point is that they long for one another, but they can't have each other. And in something like that, chemistry is unbelievably important. Maybe the idea is that if you were going for a more deft concept, like longing rather than carnal lust, like you would actually need better chemistry for the more deft storytelling direction. Whereas, like, if you're just going to splatter the screen, for a lack of a better word, with a bunch of sexualized images, it doesn't even necessarily require chemistry.
Yeah, that could be it. I went into this thinking Margot Robbie was just kind of the wrong person for this role, so maybe I was biased. I'll tell you one other weird thing about the quote unquote eroticism of the film is that Emerald Fennell would punctuate erotic moments with these really bizarre sort of set pieces around just weird stuff. I'll give you an example. Like, there's a scene where Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie, they're about to get it on, and then she runs away, and he's kind of touching himself, feeling frustrated, and then the camera moves to a snail sliding up the window, and you see like the tail of the snail leaving this, this wet mark, and it's like, okay, I know you're going through some kind of abstract erotic thing here, but it's just really jarring and weird. Why am I looking at a snail right now?
It seems like dime store art house.
Exactly. It was like it was trying too hard. And that's my gripe about all of her work. Saltburn and also Promising Young Woman is I felt like I was watching someone's film school project of someone who's just not really there, who is trying to be pretentious, or they're trying to be hip and edgy, but it's just pretentious. It's not working. So I don't know.
Well, let me know this then. Who of the performers in the movie, who gave the best performance? I guess what you're saying is it wasn't great all around, but who gave the best performance of them?
I actually I like the supporting characters better. I don't remember their names, but the two lesser love interests, including Isabella, the one who's involved in the BDSM relationship with Jacob Elordi's character, and then Edgar Linton. He's the character that Margot Robbie's character ends up having to marry out of convenience or for wealth and prestige. And so I actually thought that those two supporting characters did a better job. It's not that Elordi and Margot Robbie did a bad job. It's just that for me, the chemistry never came together. And I also could never get past the fact that she's an older actress, and I felt the age. I for some reason,
I really, he's like 28.
She's in her what?
She's like 37 or something.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I really felt the age, and that's not to say that she looked old. It's just that I almost felt like I was watching a mother-son thing, and so that was also kind of interrupting.
She's 35. She's 35.
Yeah, but when we're talking about a man in his 20s and a woman in her mid 30s, that feels like a significant difference.
That's the only thing they're allowed to make anymore. I'm gonna tell you exactly what happens. You're an erotic thriller screenwriter in Hollywood. Okay?
Yeah.
You make your way into town. They look at you and they say, you have two changes that have to be made, and if you don't do it, we won't make it. First of all, it has to be Nicole Kidman. And second of all, the woman has to be older than the man. Every time now. It feels like that's the only type of romantic comedy they want to make. It feels like that's the only type of erotic thriller they want to make, unless it's weird, like body horror AI shit. that they're doing as well, like
Right.
subservient, not body horror, but like, you know, like subservience.
BDSM stuff. Yeah.
Like that's the only way it gets made now. And in this case, Margot Robbie was a producer on this movie. This seems like, if anything, it's a vanity project for her. It was a vehicle for her to make something that she wanted to make. And I kind of contested yesterday, and I don't know if I made my point very well. She was giving this interview where she was like, you know what? I don't make movies for critics. I make movies for audiences. And I said, if that's true, she's bad at it. Because if you look at her last 5 movies, only Barbie has a high audience score. And all of them except Barbie have a low critic score. So she's actually making art house. It's like she made so much money playing Harley Quinn. She can now afford, you know, in her brand deals, and she's the face. I'm sure without even knowing, I'm sure she's the face of a makeup line or a hair care product. I'm sure. But she's got all this money. She invests it back into the industry, and that allows her to make the movies she wants. But the movies that she makes, nobody likes. She made, I forget that one last year, like with like, was it Hugh Jackman or Colin Farrell or something like that? Nobody went and saw it. Nobody cared. She did Babylon. She did New Amsterdam.
Oh, Babylon.
She did Amsterdam. And really Babylon. The only one she's made in the last 5 years that anybody's really cared about was Barbie. And that's one that kind of became retroactively a classic to everybody, because the women loved Barbie right away. The critics loved Barbie right away. But a lot of people kind of came around after the fact and were like, you know what? Wasn't as bad. They let Ken be the savior of it, where they're like, Ryan Gosling saved this movie. So I think in a lot of ways that she actually is this art house creative that does better when she's put into big budget movies. Like, I'd rather see her play a DC character, I guess, or go back to do another Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, I mean, she was amazing in Wolf of Wall Street.
That is true. Nobody liked Birds of Prey, though.
I've seen her. I think I've seen her in some other things too that I've liked her in. Again, it just to me, it wasn't a good fit, and it did feel almost a little vanity project-ish, and it felt a little juvenile. And again, maybe that's what Emerald Fennell was going for. She said this was her vision when she was a schoolgirl of Wuthering Heights, and so that's fine if that's what she wants. But to me, it just did not have erotic tension. It had some weird artistic choices that were supposed to feel edgy, but instead just seemed pretentious, and then a really overbearing, intrusive Charlie XCX soundtrack. So I guess I'm gonna have to give it a thumbs down. But
well, as a someone who's taught film, what would you have changed? Like, how would you have changed it? What would you have done to make it better?
So I would have recast Margot Robbie. I would have gone younger, and I've gone with someone who more embodies a kind of a wild, untamed spirit. She, to me, looks too Barbie-ish. I would have taken out the Charlie XCX soundtrack. Maybe she could release like one song or an accompanying soundtrack, but not the actual like scoring of the film with that. And I would have, I think that you can make an erotic movie with maybe some more muted choices than she made. Also, can I say one other thing?
You can say as much as you want to say here. That's the crazy thing about it. You can say whatever you want.
I thought it was interesting that it romanticized at one point a non-consensual sexual activity. So there is a scene where Heathcliff and Catherine, the two main characters, where Heathcliff takes her hand to suck on her fingers, and she says very clearly to him, no, don't. And he does it anyway, and it's played for like this really cool dominant move, which look, I'm fine with, but I thought that was a tenet of modern feminism.
Yeah,
that when a woman says no, she means no. So I don't know. Well, that was the edgiest thing in there.
We have since learned from Paramount that no doesn't always mean no, because they're going after Warner Brothers yet again, as we're I was like, when there was like an announcement that said like Netflix or Warner Brothers will actually now hear Paramount offers again. I was like, every joke I want to make about this is going to be taken the wrong way, so I can't make those jokes. It's not allowed. All right, guys, let's move on. I want to talk to you guys about the conspiracy theorists again, because as I told you yesterday, I have a little bit of conspiracy fatigue. I think in a lot of ways, the horrors, the awful things that have come out in the Epstein files have broken a lot of people's brains, and they see conspiracies everywhere now. Perhaps Perhaps they're true, but a lot of times they require an immense amount of evidence if you're going to say that something like that is actually true. I'm not talking about Epstein specifically. Yesterday, what I was talking about was the case of Peter Green, the incident where he very much, most likely, as it was ruled by the coroner, accidentally shot himself in the armpit. And I will read that super chat later, so don't even worry about it, guys.
And for people who don't know, Peter Green, that's one of the bad guys in is it Zed? I think it's Zed, right? It's Zed in Pulp Fiction.
Yep, and he was also in The Mask. He was the bad guy in The Mask. He played Dorian in The Mask. That was
right. And he was in Training Day too. He
yes.
was one of the dirty cops in that. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So great actor, but I did a video yesterday where he passed away. And then they ruled his death accidental gunshot wound. There are 500, accidental shootings in the United States every year. 500 deaths result of accidental shootings every year. Any number of those are self-inflicted. It's tragic. It happens. He also had a history of substance abuse. I don't know if that played a role, but the point is, a life that adds up to chaos can sometimes end in something horrible. And it doesn't always necessarily mean that there's a shadowy cabal of evil people who are going to take you out because you were making a documentary about USAID. By the way, he was in support of USAID if anything was to be judged from the documentary itself. But now we've got this case in which we're looking at now which basically the left has turned into QAnon. Mia Farrow suggests that Trump either killed or freed Ghislaine Maxwell and swapped her body with a double. Actress Mia Farrow took to the leftist echo chamber of social media, Blue Sky, to bizarrely suggest that President Donald Trump either freed Ghislaine Maxwell or had her offed the disgraced financier of the longtime associate of the disgraced financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, and swapped her out with a body double. Now, I was like, okay, I don't really get what they're getting at here. They're saying she looks different. So if you're looking for the photo here, guys, this is what they're saying. Essentially, what they're trying to imply is that her eyes look different. So I went looking, and I found a video. So we're going to listen to it here. I will screen share with you, Kurtz, so you can hear this lady as well. And you can hear their arguments as for... Actually, you know what? Hold on for a second. I actually got to open this in a different browser if we're going to do that because we're...
Well, I can look at it on my phone. Whatever.
Well, yeah, here we go. So you'll be able to listen to it if you want to check it on your phone. Here we go, guys.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Hi, guys. I've been getting a lot of DMs about Ghislaine Maxwell here, asking, did they turn in a body double or is this really her? I don't know. Let's take a look at what's going on here. First of all, two things that stand out. Here's our before jail picture, and here's the current one that's being posted and being sent to me. First question, see all the skin here and her upper lid? Are we doing upper blephs in jail? I mean, her skin is gone. Seriously. The second thing, guys, is the nose. Much wider, don't really see nostrils. In the before pictures, we see nostrils much thinner. I mean, maybe she was on Accutane in the first one. Just kidding. We know that doesn't happen. But what do you guys think? Body double or the same person?
So what do you think? Body double or the same person?
Look, obviously I think it's BS, but at the same time, those pictures do look different to me.
So you're going on record here.
I mean, that look kind of strange. Maybe she's on a medication that's making her bloat up, because I see a lot of swelling around around the eyes and stuff, like tissue around the eyes. I don't know. People can gain weight, they can acquire medical conditions, but that picture does look a little different. I see maybe she's gained weight.
Here's another one where they compare photos and stuff like this.
I just don't understand though. What would Trump's motivation be for swapping out with the body double?
So I guess what is the argument that maybe she wasn't maybe the real Ghislaine Maxwell was going to lay at the feet of the American people all of Trump's evil crimes. And so what he's like, you know what? He just snaps his fingers. He has Kash Patel go in there and remove her, and he puts in a body double who's willing to go ahead and say whatever he wants her to say to save himself. Because that's the crux of the matter here. The real truth of it is that the leftists wouldn't care about Jeffrey Epstein at all. except for there's proximity to Trump because of all of the times his name has appeared in the Epstein files. Obviously, part of that being that he, kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his business and he reported him to the feds, all of that stuff. None of it matters because there are increasingly insane accusations against him that border on the side of like child sacrifice. And a lot of these were made, after Epstein's death. And people were wondering, where did all of this come from? So I just find it interesting that one of the main things that they've always used as a sort of rebuttal against conservatives in the modern age was they would dunk on QAnon, which of course was ridiculous. Right. I dunk on QAnon.
Yeah, me too.
Where we go we go to the mall. And the point is that now they're falling into it because they want so badly to have an excuse to come back at Trump that they're saying that he did this, and it's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, I am like you. You said you're black-pilled on all of this and basically disinterested when it comes to Epstein stuff. And that's where I am now because it's just impossible to filter the legit stories and legit bad actors from the non-legit. And because the man, we've discussed this, he ran in so many different social circles and so many different realms. And the vast majority of those people who were associating with him were not doing evil things, And so like, we can't cast that wide of a net. So I just kind of have become disinterested in it. If the government is going to actually file charges against anyone, then I'll pay attention. I saw what's happened with Prince Andrew, but apparently, as you know, that has nothing to do with anything sexual. In fact, it's looking like he passed along some sensitive trade secrets to Jeffrey Epstein for a business deal, and so that's why he's in trouble.
Well, a lot of people still believe that could connect, right? So the prevailing theory from people online was that if he was lured into something like blackmail because he was part of an underage ring with with underage women, then he would be forced to leak documents to Epstein because they had it.
That's not possible. The thing is that the email communication between them though seems to indicate actually just a very amicable, friendly relationship. It seems, I think the reason why Andrew was leaking that stuff to him is because Epstein was paying off debts of Andrews and Fergie, and so once you become financially indebted to someone, then you're in a vulnerable position. I'm not denying that Andrew didn't do shady or unethical things with women. I don't know, honestly. And that's one of the things that's frustrating is we don't actually, and Michael Tracy and others have pointed this out, we have not been given evidence of really very many crimes per se. So I don't know. Again, I'm staying away from it because I see no way we can get to the bottom of it.
Do you remember that it's like a famous meme of the conspiracy theorist who's like, can somebody tell me why their hair is parted here in one photo but here in another? Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the other one that I was thinking of in this situation. Let me know if this looks accurate to you. So I saw this earlier this week as well. People are saying that Jeffrey Epstein was the inspiration for the mask from the movie Black Phone. Do you see a resemblance in the two?
Oh,
chat, let me know.
Actually, I can see that.
Is it the chin? Is it the chin there?
It's the chin, and then also they don't have him smiling, but when he smiled, he had kind of a similar. I can see that. Well, maybe it was the inspiration.
Did people call you a conspiracy theorist when you started covering the Johnny Depp stuff? If you were like talking about stuff that they didn't agree with?
Not on that one. I didn't because that when I started covering that a year before the trial, it had the truth had gone semi-mainstream, at least on social media, if not in the actual mainstream media. But people recognized that was a legitimate debate going on there. The Marilyn Manson thing, when I started defending Marilyn Manson, I did have a lot of people calling me a conspiracy theorist. And the thing is because my argument with the Manson thing is that he has so many accusers, and yet there was, in my opinion, a kind of conspiracy there because the central accuser and the first accuser, Evan Rachel Wood, was actually recruiting exes of his to come forward, was telling them even what to say, what to lie about. So, but there were people who would criticize me and would say, "Oh yeah, you think this is just some conspiracy between multiple women to accuse this man?" Well, actually, I do, and we've seen this also in other instances. We've seen it with the Cuomo Me Too allegations. We've seen it with the Armie Hammer Me Too allegations. With these celebrities, a number of these celebrities, you do have exes colluding behind the scenes against these guys. But yes, that have been accused of that.
How did you fight back against that? Just by bringing the receipts?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to make peace with the fact that people are going to think what they're going to think. And so, but the people who are willing to actually pay attention and what I would try to emphasize to people is you don't have to believe me, but I do hope that you'll see that there are legitimate reasons for being concerned here, that there are legitimate questions. There are legitimate things that do not make sense in the official story or the story that the accusers are promoting.
There was somebody left a comment on something the other day on my Instagram and said how long have you been in a cult? And I was thinking about it. I was like, I never respond to stuff like that because if that's the first thing you say, you're not looking to have like a
what
good
is
faith.
The cult? The cult is yes,
I guess, or
okay.
Being right wing, which I'm not, but they would. That's how they would paint me.
Yeah,
right.
Gotcha,
but I was thinking about it because I didn't assume them to mean that. I assume that they think that I'm right wing or something like that. And I was thinking about it because I was like, well, last night I spent a good part of the post show on IRL, the after show on IRL, criticizing the Trump administration's response, PR campaign as it relates to ICE and deportations, and I think that they've gone about it the wrong way. Not in the sense that they're doing the deportations wrong inherently, but the fact that they weren't going after factory farms, the fact that they weren't going after the businesses, and on the ground it's been nothing but a debacle.
I made a lot of mistakes.
And in the social media, clapping back at Bruce Springsteen, clapping back at any celebrity that speaks out, Olivia Rodrigo and all this stuff. I was like, you've lost a lot of moderates who, held their nose and voted for you because they agreed at least on the economy. And on its face, a lot of them probably do agree with you on immigration to a certain extent. But when your time is being spent, clout chasing on social media, I just thought it was a bad look. So I don't know if that puts me in a cult because I'm disagreeing with aspects of their platform well in support of others. And I said in a video the other day, I said my most right-wing beliefs are that you should enforce immigration laws and you should need freaking an ID to vote, which are not right-wing ideas 10 years ago or 20 years ago. 10 years ago, I guess now it would be. But in general, when they accuse you of cult-like behavior, I think of the Mia Farrows of the world who have been so poisoned by politics that they look at stuff like this uncritically, and it seems like a lonely existence to have to go to Blue Sky to find people to commiserate on stuff like this. Said, notably, Farrow regularly takes to the progressive platform Blue Sky to expound her extremist left-wing political ideas and constantly attacks President Trump, anybody who supports him, as well as Republicans in general. Last year, the Crimes and Misdemeanors actress raged over a drug boat strike that killed 11 Trinidad terrorists who were en route to the United States, bizarrely accusing President Trump of murder. I don't think that's actually bizarre, even though I don't think it's accurate. I don't find that bizarre. I just find that as their form of political framing. But I'm just kind of checked out with all of it. And I actually think that that's kind of one of the points of the Epstein file. That's my conspiracy theory, is that it was released the way that it was to demoralize a good portion of the general public, to make it into something so deep and unsolvable that they just disconnect. So you see a gap on the right, or at least the right and the libertarian side of the party, where policy focused conservatives are they're also taking the wrong path, and they're saying it was a nothing burger, there's nothing here, we need to focus on policy. Well, they're right that you should focus on policy, they're wrong that there's nothing there. There's a lot of evil in those documents that needs to be dealt with. But then the other side of that argument is the people that are focused only on that, and people who have become single issue voters, which are going to hurt them in future campaigns because they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater over singular issues. Like I said yesterday, for some people it was Epstein. For some people it was World War III in Iran again, even though it's World War III with Iran every 3 months, every time U.S. launches any type of airstrike whatsoever. And then I saw, you lost the midterms because of glyphosate or whatever it is. And I'm like, so everybody's a single issue voter. Everybody is ready to throw in the towel. And to be fair, you know, I'm kind of in the same boat in that I've checked out of politics so heavily over the last year that I look at all of this, and the natural conclusion for that when you're the one that's not in power is to go into, when you're the party that's not in power, is to go into crazy ideas like they replaced Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, I think that it's a lot for people to expect that there won't be public interest in the Epstein documents. But again, personally for me, I mean, look, finding that out about Bill Gates trying to slip his wife medication for that was like the high point, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to end it on a high note. This was fascinating. I'm out.
You checked out from there. You're like, this is interesting enough.
Yeah, exactly.
This is interesting enough. Yeah, I don't know. Like the more, I think it's also being poisoned by too much time on the internet, which I fully take responsibility for in my own right. Which is like when I was complaining yesterday, and Olivia would laugh about it because I woke up and I just started not ranting, but making like wild gestures, like, oh my God, glyphosate. Oh my God, World War III with Iran. And it's like, it's my own fault because I got up and looked at my phone, which I never do. I make sure to like not really look at my phone until I get into work for the day. But, you know, I don't know where I am on the political scale. I'm just as far away as possible from Ghislaine Maxwell, who they believe was replaced in the middle of the night. And also, let's be fair, they've also screwed it up because Kash Patel hasn't done a good job, and Dan Bongino left and tried to take a victory lap that everybody then roundly dunked on him for, rightfully so. So, you know, I'm kind of over all of it.
Yeah, it was definitely mishandled, and the Bush administration, they've done a terrible job, and Bongino and Bondi and all of them with it, I think.
All right, let's go to Super Chats, guys. I hope everybody is having a good Friday. You should let us know what your... I wish we could do open-ended questions on the... instead of a poll, I wish we could, like, just ask open-ended questions, and then, like, people could give their responses, and then we could see how many people give, like, use AI to kind of categorize and collate all the responses to see if everybody's doing the same thing over the weekend. I guess I'll have to do that myself. The AI can't replace me. That's a good thing. All right, guys. Shane H. Wilder says, happy Friday, Kurtz and Dasovic. Did y'all hear about Christy Carlson Romano? She got cancer. Seems like every time we turn around, it's someone else. I did not hear that.
I don't know who that is.
Is that like Ray Romano's wife? I don't know who that is. Is that Ray Romano's wife? You'd have to look her up.
I can look it up.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it does feel that way. So the thing about the cases we covered today was, it was James Vanderbeek and Eric Dane, who were both on the younger side because, you know, James Vanderbeek was 48. Eric Dane was 53.
Disney Channel alum here. Okay. See that.
How old is she? Does it say how old she is?
She is.
Pretty young?
I guess. Let's see. Hold on a second. She is 41. Okay. So young to be dying of cancer.
Guys, we're like 2/3 of the way to a crisis party. Let's get it. Brian Bledsoe says, given Martin Scorsese's previous criticism, what do you think about him voicing a character in The Mandalorian and Grogu? Good for him. Doesn't bother me one bit. Yes. But here's the thing, Brian. You can let me know in the chat if I'm wrong here, but I thought Scorsese's comments were about superheroes, and technically The Mandalorian and Grogu is Star Wars, which is space opera. I guess it's all blockbuster entertainment. Maybe. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with Scorsese doing that. We should give him a role in The Fast and the Furious next.
Oh, so sorry. Back on the Christy Carlson thing. So she was with Shia LaBeouf on that Even Stevens.
Okay.
I know that you already talked about Shia, but just want to say real quick that I wish that celebrities, when they have religious conversion experiences, I wish that they would do like a 3-year moratorium on trying to proselytize, because now he looks fucking ridiculous for all those podcasts that he went on. I think he went on some Catholic podcasts talking about how
he played Padre Pio. He was in the
yeah, but he's all like, I've had this great revelation, and now I want to spend the rest of my life being useful, and the Latin Mass, and blah 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 blah. And it's, I don't know, I feel that way about Russell Brand too. It's like, guys, can we just be kind of quiet for a few years, and then we'll see if this works for you? Because next thing you know, she is out there at Mardi Gras headbutting people.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean,
in the name of the Lord.
In general, Like, I'm sure a lot of people, like, I can't speak to it because I'm not inherently religious, but I'm sure that the idea is that it's a lot harder to take their word for it until you've kind of proven yourself. But that's also not my place to judge. So,
well, they can practice their religion. It's the immediate proselytizing. You know, my mom is a hardcore Christian, and she's like, you know, well, Christian, that's what the Bible says, is go and make disciples, blah blah blah. But it's just like, you just converted. You got a lot of stuff to
it's a
learn.
journey, man. It's a
You've got a
journey.
lot of demons. Why don't you just like tackle that in your corner for a little while before you start proclaiming it? Anyway, next super chat.
There is a similar thing that can be said for people when you get into recovery and you start talking about recovery too quickly.
Yes, the AA proselytizers. I know.
Like it's one of the things that I find the most interesting, because as somebody in recovery, I don't eschew anybody their burdens or their addictions or anything like that. It's not my place to judge them for whatever it is they're doing. I want the best for everybody, and I hope they end up finding what works for them. But I have always, I think everybody knows there's a correlation between how often somebody tells you to get help and how often you say, I don't need it, right? You have to come to that conclusion on your own. The idea of rock bottom exists for a reason, that you have to find your way to recovery, and oftentimes you're not going to accept the help or the proselytizing of others. You need to come to that conclusion on your own. Now, there is an argument that a lot of people make, and I do think that there's some weight to it, where you can tell somebody all the good advice in the world and they won't listen. But that doesn't necessarily mean that information escapes them the moment you say it. Oftentimes, giving somebody good advice or telling somebody something that helped you may not help them now, but when they need to hear it, it will come back to them.
Yeah, and I probably I think I have a real chip on my shoulder, if you want to use that term, or an oversensitivity about this sort of thing, because I grew up in an East Texas Southern Baptist church, and everybody in my environment was trying to win everybody to Jesus, and I think I kind of got tired of that over the years, and I just wish people would stay a little more in their lane. None of us have the information to be able to say with any certainty what God is like, or what the point of life is, or what happens after death. And so if you have beliefs about it, great, believe, but like to be able to actually like tell other people like what's going on, I just don't get it. But anyway,
Relax.
on to the next one.
Relax over on Rumble says, space opera? What the F, Bread? Well, that's what Star Wars is classified as, is it not?
Yeah,
it's always
I
been
see that,
classified as a space opera. So I don't know what you want me to... What do you want me to do? All right. This was the one I couldn't wait to get to. From Mike, says East German hitmen spies used armpit shots when torturing or interrogating. It was a Stasi technique that Clancy Inc. in novel Some of All Fears used. It kept spray off agents or something. Not saying dude was deleted. Well, okay. Here's the thing. Everybody knows that I loathe to make like finite statements, but it would be hilarious if the one time I'm like, this is absolutely not a conspiracy. This is total bullshit. Anybody who believes this is an idiot. And then we find out in a week that some ex-KGB spies killed Peter Green. If that happens, I will absolutely apologize to the world at large. I will. But thank you for that fact. I've only seen the Sum of All Fears, the movie, so I never read the book. And I don't think it's my favorite of the Jack Ryans.
I have read the book.
I love Patriot Games.
The movie. That was the one with Ben Affleck, right? Yeah,
Sum of All Fears was the one with Ben Affleck.
Oh, okay.
Patriot Games was Harrison Ford.
Patriot Games. Yeah, no, that was good. The Harrison Ford ones were good. Clear and Present Danger was really good too.
Yes, both of them were great.
Yeah.
Those were like the Patriot Games was the first.
And
the
then
ones I
Hunt for
saw.
October, the Alec Baldwin, that was amazing too. That was my favorite, I think, of all of them.
I didn't see that one till later. Like I saw Patriot Games and I saw Clear and Present Danger like right around the same time years ago. I just rewatched them for the first time in years, like last year I think, because they were on Paramount Plus. I love looking at those movies and just the 90s aesthetic of films is just something that it's why I will never want to watch any type of like period piece that gets set in the 90s. It will never capture the magic of what movies in the 80s and 90s looked like when they were actually set in current year and captured like in like I don't remember, was it Patriot Games where he's got like the car phone and it looks like you could kill a man with it. It's enormous. Like I love that stuff. I love the tech from that time.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Corey Anderson says baking soda royalty. Yes, I did say that. Thank you. All right. Thank you for that.
Woo, thank you.
I appreciate that. Now I know how Mary feels because she will dance and I will be the one who does not dance. All right. Hold on. One sec. Check that. Make sure there's no problems with the sound at this time. We do not want that. All right. Chief Corey Anderson says, "Suns out, guns out." Eh, Colonel? Yes, I said that earlier. I said you're looking ripped today.
So I was just telling. Thank you for noticing. Actually, let me.
Hold on. Let me go full screen there. There you go.
So I will say this: I stopped waitressing for a bit when I was when we were doing a little bit of regional travel here to see some relatives. And so the thing is, like when you work those night shifts, you can't really eat because you don't eat at work. And 4 o'clock when I go to work, it's too early to eat. And then when you get off work at like 10 or 11, your appetite is kind of passed by. So basically what's happened is I've just started eating again the last time.
You were fasting without even trying.
That's right. But no, I like calisthenics. I always have. But I mean, a lot of this is just, I think, waitressing muscle that has been hiding because I wasn't eating enough protein. So if you want to get muscles, you just got to eat the protein.
I need to get a sign for my room, the one that says, "You're not hungry, you're just bored." I have a friend that had one. I need one for myself. That's because I snack too much.
Well, but you've lost a lot of weight, right?
About 25. It's like about 20 pounds right now because it's winter and I'm not skating as much. But you know, that's a good thing. Also, it was like it was like a lot of inflammation from like specific things.
Yeah.
So my face would puff up. All right. Shane H. Wilder says Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens were killed in a plane crash. It was dubbed "The Day the Music Died." Yes, that is true. My dad loved Buddy Holly. Brian Bledsoe says, speaking of coincidence, the flashback scene of Godfather 2, the actors depart in the exact order of their deaths, leaving Al Pacino as the last one.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, good trivia there.
Right. Oh, also, apparently Eric Dane passed away on the anniversary of his first appearance on Grey's Anatomy.
Wow.
Yep. Not That Jon Stewart says, "Why do you have to talk about so much death on my birthday?" Lol, have a good weekend. I'd like to think that discussion wasn't around death as much as it was about how human beings grapple with death or coincidence. We weren't just sitting there talking about the nitty-gritty gruesome details of death. Shane H. Wilder says, "I do not want to post after I die. An AI could never post as tarded as I do." Well, you know, you never know, man. You never know. It's always possible that the AI could match you in that respect. I still think that the AI would have a hard time reading as bad as I do. The local Wendigo over on Rumble says, "Find meta server. I'll be stored on Drump vodka on it. Give me a second. Final death." I read that as it was. Find meta server. I'll be stored on Drump vodka on it to give me a second. Final death. Okay. Well, all right then. Thank you for that. All right. Corey Anderson says, "If you work in an office building, do you have to try all the stalls until you find the right one, or do you just use any stall? I need the right one."
I've never thought about that. Never gotten that question before. Well, I mean, you're talking about using restrooms?
I think he's talking about using restrooms.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, you're looking to see if there are any that are clear that don't have, the leftovers of someone else's use, if I can be indelicate. Yep. I've got a train going by. You can probably hear it.
So you're not even as loud as like Mary's sometimes. Like there's always somebody honking. There's always something going on outside of her building. It's
That's funny.
She lives in a Grand Theft Auto
Oh,
mission.
she's because she's in an urban area, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know where exactly she is, but I do know that wherever it is, there's
Make
a lot of
noise.
sound going on outside. That is true. All right. Moon at Noon says, don't tell Mary about this. Oh, bro, I'm going to tell her now. Like, you shouldn't have done that. I'm telling her. You super chatted when she wasn't here. She's going to be pissed, bro. Carnell says, how does the expression rest in peace truly mean anything to the culture at large when AI acceleration is at play, further eroding the sentiment? Yeah, I mean,
There was a Black Mirror episode that I really loved about not only the idea of AI reproducing you online, but that actually one day they could get a robot and then it would have that AI consciousness, so to speak, so that you could have a lifelike android replica of your loved one. And I mean, I think we're going to we're going to get pretty close to that eventually, and that's going to be, look, the android, the humanoid android phenomenon is going to be, we're going to have to reckon with it, come to terms with it at some point in society. And you are going to have people who will prefer that to a human romantic partner. So, you know, something that will do everything that you want and respond exactly how you want it to and be in whatever mood you want it to be in. That's gonna be tough to beat. So I do have a kind of dystopic view. Whether it happens in our lifetime, it probably will, or in future generations. I do think that's going to be a real transition point, a real hurdle for society, because a lot of people may want the real thing, but then you'll have some people who are wanting to like cheat on their real partners with the android, and I know.
the movies that they will make.
Yep. There's already a Megan Fox movie, right? Megan Fox is sex bot. Yeah, they mentioned that. Yeah.
All right, we've got more here, guys. Go through there. Shane H. Wilder says, I do not want an AI Brett and Mary. I only accept real Brett and Mary. AI Brett and Mary are demons. AI Brett will be so good at reading, you won't even care, bro. Like, AI Brett will be able to tell you concise thoughts. AI Brett will be able to actually finish his thoughts without switching randomly to another one. AI Brett will read a bunch of sentences without screwing up. You're going to love it, man. The podcast is going to be longer because what we're going to do is we're going to program AI Brett to be like Brett, but it's 7 p.m. So he's a little bit more calm. He's not as hyper as he is. And the podcast will go 3 hours, no problem, when I slow down my rate of speech. You just wait. You're going to love it, Shane. Big Veiny Duck says, Bob Dylan is a hack and Springsteen is a douche. I would say, yes, both are true. Bob Dylan is a hack and a douche, and Bruce Springsteen is a douche. That's the best I can say. That's the nicest thing I can say about Bob Dylan. Chief Corey Anderson says, what's for dinner tonight? Kurtz, what's for dinner tonight?
Well, I'm actually working tonight at my old job. So back to waitressing. So probably nothing. I'm back on the fast.
There you go. Well, you know, now you're going to lose all that muscle tone.
That's
right. Be
careful.
Dinner tonight. I don't know what we're having for dinner tonight. It's Friday. Maybe perhaps we will go out for dinner. We try to not go out very often, but maybe tonight we do because it's a Friday evening. Though, you know, I do have I have one particular bad habit, which is that we get sheets when I come home from work late on Thursday nights when I do IRL. So like last night I was like getting ready to come home and I'm like, yeah, I think I should go to Sheets when I come home. She's like, I already got the app open, babe. Like I know what you're gonna get. Like we'll have it ready for pickup when you get back into town because my commute is about 45 minutes. So, all right. Shane H. Wilder says, I'm picturing Brett in a cold sweat screaming about glyphosate as Olivia tries to comfort him and saying it's all a dream and the glyphosate can't hurt you. No, she was saying you're being annoying because I'm up having a spastic moment where I'm just like, it's the end of the world. World War III and glyphosate. They're putting the Roundup weed killer in your food. Yeah, that was what was going on. Just don't X in the morning, guys. X responsibly. Social media responsibly. You don't need to use it right when you get up. It's a bad idea in general. All right. Brian Bledsoe says, Will Smith and Margot Robbie had great chemistry and focus. Yes, a lot of people believe that that was Will Smith's biggest fumble, that he could have had Margot Robbie, but he was, still with his wife that's, a bad person.
Oh my God, Jada Pinkett. Yeah, he should have definitely tried to get off that train. But I know Margot Robbie has had a really serious love for a long time. I mean, her husband and father of her child, but I think she was with him even before she became famous. So
plus, maybe Will Smith is just bigoted against Australians. Maybe he just doesn't like Australians. Maybe he's like, yeah, we can hang out, but you have to talk in an American accent. I won't put up with your Australian accent. It's like when I heard Alex O'Loughlin talk in his Australian accent for the first time, because I always knew him from Hawaii Five-0, and I saw him in the show called Moonlight, and then you hear his Australian accent and you're like, man, it's actually kind of impressive how much of pretty much half of Hollywood is just British people pretending to be American, or European people pretending to be American. I know that that's not the same thing, but you get my point. All right. Censored says, are we talking about Eilish deporting a guy? Yeah, did you see the story, Kurtz? Did you see this one?
No.
Yeah, so who remembers Drew Pavlo was like, nobody's illegal on stolen land, and then he came to America and he was going to camp outside Billie Eilish's home because no one is illegal on stolen land. DHS actually shot down Australian influencer's wild claim that Billie Eilish got him deported. Homeland Security officials on Tuesday shot down a gadfly Australian influencer's claim that the firebrand pop star Billie Eilish got him deported from the United States. Drew Pavlo's self-admitted S-post campaigning to move into Billie Eilish's $3 million mansion after her anti-ICE "no one is illegal on stolen land" rant had nothing to do with his recent deportation ordeal at LAX, a Customs and Border Patrol protection spokesperson told us. Claims that this individual's admissibility was tied to external reports regarding Eilish are false, they said. The hard and soft denial is the latest bizarre twist after Eilish's remarks at the 2026 Grammy Awards. While accepting the Song of the Year, blah, 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 you guys know all of that stuff. She said the stupid thing. It was dumb. The lefty Birds of a Feather singer's remarks provoked a conservative backlash over her perceived hypocrisy and virtue signaling. I also saw people were like, oh, and she owns pit bulls? This is the worst. Some senators like Mike Lee, Republican from Utah, cheekily demanded Eilish put her money or her mansion where her mouth is. Any white person who does a public stolen land acknowledgement should immediately give his or her land to Native Americans. Yeah, I don't believe that Eilish got him deported. So he says, Billie Eilish got me deported. I think her legal team contacted DHS. Maybe she did. Who knows? DHS says no, but maybe the people over at DHS are just really big fans of Billie Eilish. Who knows? Could be true. All right.
I think her music is overrated. That's all I have to say on that.
Too damn slow. Shane H. Wilder says, we call new Catholics neophytes, newly planted, and most of us would like them to stay quiet for years.
That's right. So they don't embarrass the shit out of you like Sheila LaBeouf did.
He says so they have time to grow. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we also talked on here about, what is it, like Nala, the OnlyFans to Catholic convert, or to Christian convert, who then started like a platform where she was like actually preaching the Bible online and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I just think of that more as an issue where it's like, if I was newly converted, who would want to hear my take on it, because I don't know enough yet, right?
I think what happens is, well, first of all, when you have someone who's an addict, I think that they're so looking for a life raft to get them. And look, oftentimes religion works and AA works. I'm not dissing it, but they're so looking for a life raft, and so they're trying to save themselves basically by taking all of that addictive energy and redirecting it. And also, when you're newly converted to something, there is a kind of a chemical reaction that is set off in the brain. Very much.
There's
like
absolutely
falling in love. Right, like falling in love. And so like And I saw this all the time. We call it a mountaintop experience when I was growing up in the church, but I've seen this many times in friends and family that after the initial conversion, there's a real high. And then what happens, as you find also in romantic love, is that you come down from the high, you have to face the reality of the commitment that you've made and all the problems and uncertainties that go along with that. And it settles into, if you're lucky, a more grounded long-term commitment. And but what happens, the danger is, like with people like Shia LaBeouf, they have this high, and then inevitably, or not inevitably, but oftentimes that high doesn't persist, and then they go back to the crutch, right, or the addiction. So I don't know, but I wish him well, and I hope that things will take a turn for the better for him. But
Yeah.
I have to go,
Yeah,
Brett. I'm
yes,
sorry.
absolutely. No, it's
To
absolutely.
work. Everybody, Colonel Kurtz 99. I will be back, I guess, next week if we're doing
Tuesday.
this on Tuesday. Yep. And thanks for having me. And I will see you later. Thanks, Brett.
I will see you on Tuesday.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, we got a couple more here. Oh, I'm so sorry, Sean. You're going to have to, I will ask her next week. You were literally the next super chat. Has Colonel Kurtz ever been in a bar fight? Totally plausible. We'll have to wait and ask her next week. Maybe that was just my pitch, right? I knew your super chat was there, and I was like, I'm going to wait so that she has to answer it next week as the hook to get you guys all to come back next Tuesday. Chief Corey Anderson says, would you like to have elongated arms like chimpanzees or webbed feet and hands like a frog? I would choose the elongated arms. Elongated arms. I don't even know why. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go with is this like to have or have to have? Because it's like you have to choose one. I'm going to choose the webbed hands and feet because I think that plastic surgery can fix that, and then I can get rid of it. Then I won't have to worry about it anymore. Though, with the webbed hands and feet, would that help with swimming? Because I didn't learn how to swim until I was much, much older, because when I was young, because I was born essentially like half deaf in my right ear, and they tried to do multiple sets of tubes in the ear, didn't work. They did 2 reconstructions of my eardrum and just made it worse. Now I'm 90% deaf in my right ear. So early years, because of those tubes, I wasn't allowed, I couldn't really go underwater. I had to wear like the earplugs when I would go, when I would take a shower and stuff like that. So I didn't learn how to swim till many, many years later, and it's not like, I'm not very good at it. So I'm going to have to go with the webbed hands and feet, because then I can get rid of it with plastic surgery. That would be my path forward. All right. I saw Dingus Khan in the chat say, Brett, you're a Catholic. And then he said a lapsed Catholic is still a Catholic. Is that kind of like how there's no such thing as a former Marine? That would make sense to me. All right. Long arms will interfere with your skin. Yes, that's actually 100% true, Carnell. So one of the benefits of being short is that skating was, it was actually really, really beneficial for skating, because you have a low center of gravity, which makes it much, much easier to balance when you're doing tricks and stuff like that. So I wouldn't want longer arms. It would actually make it way worse. And it was always crazy looking at people that were super tall and imagining like what it was like to actually try to jump and do tricks with feet like that, or when your like head was so far above the ground. That shit was crazy. All right. Kloonberg says long arms are a Neanderthal trait. Are they? Is that okay? Yes, peasant comments are being reddith. Yes, I am gonna. I'm reading your comments, guys. We do this quite a bit. But it depends on how quickly we get done with topics during the day, guys, and we got through quite a few of them today. All right. Make sure I'm caught up over on Rumble, guys. And also, guys, make sure that you go and subscribe to her channel. She does great work over there, and Colonel Kurtz is the best. And she's always so generous with her time to come and do this show on Tuesdays. So you should go give her a follow, and you should go watch her content. Also, watch any video she does that's a skit, because her skits are really, really freaking funny. So you guys will love it. All right. Before we go, guys, would you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you have not subscribed here yet already? Please and thank you. I want to ask you guys, maybe I'll put a post up on social media. What do you think we should do for the 400,000 subscriber mark? On one hand, I was saying maybe we just don't do anything for it because it's already so close to episode 1000, and episode 1000 was it was fantastic. You guys all came out. It was unbelievably great. So maybe we just don't do anything for it, or should we do a longer episode on Wednesday and we see what happens with that. I would be interested to know what you guys think. Maybe we'll put a poll up on the community tab here, or on YouTube. And if you're a Rumble viewer, I guess you can go and, plug your nose and go and vote on the poll. But let me know if you guys think we should do a longer episode in celebration of 400,000 subscribers, because I would really like to know if you guys want that or not, or if we just do the regular 2-hour episode. If you guys want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on X at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. We are here as always, 5 days a week, Monday. I shouldn't say as always either, because there was a period of time where we weren't getting episodes out 5 days a week, but we seem to have gotten back in the rhythm with things, guys. Like, I'm actually confident again, like most days when we get the show going, that it's gonna go the way it needs to. I know that we do have tech issues from time to time, though most of the time the big issue that would happen was like people getting kicked from the room, and internet issues, which hasn't been knock on wood, hasn't really been an issue other than once in the last couple of weeks. So we think we're through the worst of it when it comes to that stuff. And as always, I feel like I am very lucky to be able to do this show for you guys 5 days a week. So being able to continue to be live every day is a big thing. The other thing that we've been considering doing is we may open channel memberships. We're not 110% sure for that right now. We may open channel memberships. And then with that, what we would see is I might add like a Saturday show once in a while. So, I loathe, as I'm sure most of you are, to watch me instead of anybody else. Like, add like a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon show once or twice a month, something like that. If that's something you guys would be interested in watching. It's just, I'm always looking to kind of make more content. Like, as Olivia would tell you, I will be home sometimes at 11 p.m. Something comes up that I want to talk about. I will go into into the office and go record a video on it, because I want to keep putting content out for you guys. So I'm always looking to add more stuff so that you guys get more value for your, subscribing to the channel. So let me know what you guys think about that. Shane H. Wilder, one more, says, wait till 500K. Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea, especially given how close it is to episode 1000, but perhaps that is what we will do. Also, guys, if you want to listen to the audio version of this podcast, it's Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify, which is it's another great way to help the channel out. Like, we have a lot of loyal audio platform listeners. I follow those numbers as well, and you guys show out for those episodes as well, which we are always so grateful for. It's not just about YouTube and Rumble. It's also for the people who listen to it on the audio platforms, because that's how I listen to most of the podcasts that I listen to. It's like on a platform that doesn't even have video. So if you follow us there, that is great. And if you can, rate and review on Apple Podcast and on Spotify, which is another great way to help the channel out. And if you want to follow us on social media, we are on Twix at popculture_show, Facebook at popculturecrisis, Instagram at popculturecrisisPod. And one more thing before we go, I will be starting Scream Queens this weekend. I believe the show is on Hulu. And I owe you guys. I'm going to get this done. It's not going to be in a week, but I'm going to get it done. I always make good on my bets when we do this stuff with the milestone episodes. You guys know I don't welch. I always follow through, but I'm looking to hopefully start it this weekend if it's on Hulu. If it's not, I will buy it, because I'm dedicated to making sure that I always make good on my bets. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, me and Mary will be back with another episode on Monday. We will see y'all then. Bye, guys.